All right, so we are recording. I'm going to go ahead and invite Jonathan Clayton from the Department of Commerce to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see some friendly and familiar faces on here. My name is Jonathan Clayton, and I am with the Kansas Department of Commerce. I represent the Southwest region for in-state business development. And my territory covers, basically, if you were to draw a diagonal line from Larned to Elkhart, everything on both sides of that line, the 18 counties in Southwest Kansas are considered under my territory. And thank you, Anna and Joanne, for allowing me to provide any assistance I can today for the Ford County Spark Grant Program. Just a reminder, if possible, make sure to keep your lines muted if you can. What I want to go through today is an explanation of what the Spark grants are from, where they were developed, and then how they can be best used for your business. So for those of you not familiar, and I'm going to be actually looking because I can't remember every single acronym. The Spark Fund stands for Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas. And this was a fund that was designated by the governor's office and the state legislature combined to use money that was designated through the CARES Act funding following the COVID-19 pandemic. And in this program, the Spark program, we have 3 rounds that are administered by the state. And round 1 was where funding was designated to each of the counties within the state based off of population, number of COVID cases, and unemployment. And once we took those factors in, we calculated an amount that was to be designated for each county. And those counties were then allowed to use that money as best as they saw fit to provide assistance to businesses, county entities, and organizations that have suffered due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So what we're looking at today is a fund that was set up by Ford County and with a partnership of the Ford County Dodge City Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce to provide assistance for businesses that have experienced economic hardship during COVID-19. And I will ask Joanne and Molly and anybody else who might be able to clarify anything. Each county has the option to use their funds however they chose. And from my understanding and how we're looking at Ford County is that expenses can be recalculated, can be recaptured through their application form, and then a grant will be provided to those businesses based off of their need. So what I wanted to just go through real quick before passing it off to Joanne was based off of federal and state guidance. We have a list of eligible expenses that this grant funding can be used for. And again, Joanne or Anna, if I do make a mistake on the time frame, I apologize, but from my understanding, Ford County will be providing assistance to businesses who have already incurred expenses through August 31st. So I'm just going to share my screen here real quick. And hopefully everybody, Anna, can you see that? Everybody can see the screen? Great. So what this shows is a list of eligible expenses. And we have made this list available online as well, and we can distribute this out to the group after we're done. Eligible expenses for use of this program include payroll costs, which is very broad. So we have salaries, wages, as well as owner compensation, employee paid time off other than COVID-related sick time, group healthcare benefits and insurance premiums, and state and local taxes. Fixed debts, which are long-term debts owed by the business, so mortgages, including the interest, automobile loans related to the business, and general business loans. I will speak on that in just a moment because there is one caveat to fixed debts. Additionally, business rent is permitted, as well as any utilities tied to the business, and that does include internet access and service. Accounts payable and open invoices, so for example, service contracts or installations or repairs. Revitalizing your inventory, as well as office supplies, web hosting and maintenance. So if you have a website for your business, you're allowed to use this fund to pay for the expense of the cost for the website hosting, bookkeeping and accounting services, marketing and advertisement, and any other short-term expenses that were incurred during the January to August 31st period. I also have, and this list is not exclusive of all eligible expenses or ineligible expenses, but these are the major categories. And anyone who has clarification can always reach out to me or to Anna or Joanne or anyone with either the Chamber or the Economic Development corporations to get clarification. Ineligible expenses would include payments of dividends or bonuses, stockholder disbursements, or repayment of stockholder or principal loans. And then here, number 4 is the caveat about long-term or fixed debts. You can make payments towards those debts, but you cannot pay them off. And the reason is because that would be considered a refinance of that loan by using one loan to pay off of another, a grant to pay off a loan. But you can make payments towards that loan, just as long as, or that fixed debt, just as long as it's not completely paid off. Any other payment towards any other federal or CARES Act loan that was already received, such as an EIDL or any other funding that was CARES Act related. Payment towards any back taxes from any jurisdictions, that includes sales tax, property tax, state sales tax, and any other taxes, including federal. Relocation for the business, so the business can't use this fund to move to another site. And finally, any funds that were already paid for with other CARES Act funding. So for example, if a business received a PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, and they used those funds to pay for payroll, this grant can't be used to also pay for payroll unless it's for a different time frame than was already used. So for example, if you use the PPP to pay payroll in June or July, you can use this grant to pay for payroll in August, or insurance costs from August for the grant, and payroll for the PPP. As long as the costs are not double dipped and paid for by 2 different means on the same expense, the expense is going to be eligible. The same thing goes with the EIDL loan. If anyone participated in the EIDL, again, those expenses, which were a little more broad, as long as they're not covered by this grant as well as the EIDL, those would be considered eligible expenses. So I know that's a lot of information, and I believe we've got people monitoring the chat. So if we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of those now before we move on. Okay, I will take that as a sign, as hopefully the message was delivered. And again, this information has been posted on, I believe, at least one or both of our websites here for Ford County, and we'll be making sure to answer any questions available. And with that, I will be happy now to pass on to Joanne Wright.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna and Jonathan. I'm Joanne Knight, the Executive Director of the Dodge City Ford County Development Corporation. And just wanted to, first off, thank the Ford County Commissioners and J.D. Gilbert, the Administrator, and the Commissioners, Chris Boyce, Sean Tassett, and Kenny Schnook for allowing us to utilize these funds towards our businesses. The Sparks One funding, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, was to go to the taxing entities to help them to reimburse for their expenses as well as prepare for further pandemics, but they opted to take this portion to give to the businesses, so we appreciate that. I really don't have a whole lot to add because Anna's going to go over the application form, but I would be happy to answer some questions as we move forward through this interview.
Thank you, Joanne. Again, my name's Anna Bjork, and I'm the president and CEO of the Dodge City Area Chamber of Commerce. We did just have a question come through the chat for Gray County expenses. This grant program is for Ford County only, so it is for businesses within Ford County only for this specific grant. So I hope that answers that question. If not, feel free to add some more details to that question and we can try to get it answered. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please utilize that chat feature or try to raise your hand utilizing that feature, and we'll try to get your questions answered. This webinar is being recorded, so we hope to send this out. If you know of a business that you think should apply for this grant, please share this with them. It can be any business within Ford County. So I am going to share my screen here and pull up the actual application. Give me a second. All right, can everybody see this application pulled up on the screen? Okay. I am gonna just start going through this application. Just to clarify too, the application for this Spark grant will open on October 1st, and we hope to have it open from October 1st through October 15th. That will not be a first come, first serve application. That will be open throughout the entirety, October 1st and through October 15th. I'm going to go through this and then I'll answer any questions towards the end after I go through the whole application once. So you'll see here on the application, you fill out your business name, your owner name of the business, your business address, FEIN, social security number, and business type. This business type to put in there, you'll choose a type from over here in this category listing where it says business types. If you're a nonprofit, you can apply for this fund, so I think that's important to note, but please try to choose whichever business type you feel like you fit in best in that category. Then right here, you're gonna go and you're gonna put in information for business revenue, business expenses, and payroll costs. On business revenue, you're gonna put your revenue for January through December of 2019, January through August of 2019, and then January through August of 2020. And you'll do those same date ranges for business expenses as well. You can see in this line listed right below. Then right here, you will do payroll costs for all of last year. So January through December of 2019 and what your payroll costs were for that year. One thing to note on this application, and Jonathan did touch on it slightly, if you've received any other CARES Act funding, you must list all other CARES Act funding that you received. So that is this portion right here. You'll see PPP, EIDL, Spark Round 2 funding if you've heard from that, CDBG loan or grant, and then any other funding from CARES Act funding. So you place in this the dollar amount that you've received. If you have received $350,000 in CARES Act funding, then you would not be eligible to apply for this grant. So you add all this up and see what you've received there, and then you put here the grant amount that you are requesting. Down here, you're just going to attest that all information is accurate and that you're willing to share any information that is requested from the review committee. Information down here is also listed on how to submit that application. So it's a fairly simple application. While you're filling it out, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly at the chamber or Joanne and the Development Corporation as well. I am going to check the chat here real quick. So someone did put in here, if you can check the chat feature too, if you're in Gray County, there's a contact there for Gray County as well on who to contact. There's a question about limits for grant amount requested. On that question, put in there, you can put in there your loss of revenue amount. So if you, for example, have 100,000 loss in revenue this year over last year due to COVID, let's say you've received 50,000 in PPP funding, then you're eligible to put in there and request an additional 50,000 of funds from this grant application. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. All right, so that was the application. If you have any further questions, please go ahead and put those questions in the chat feature right now. Like I said, this application will be open from October 1st through October 15th, so you have about a 2-week time period in there to fill that out. If you have any questions while you're filling out that application, please feel free to reach out to me or Joanne at the Development Corporation as well. We will put our contact information in the chat feature for you so you know how to get a hold of us as well. This application will send out information with a link to the application on October 1st. The application will also be able to be found on, I believe, both of our websites at dodgecitychamber.com and then the Development Corporation's website as well. I'm going to go ahead and open up the time for questions. So there is a question on non-CARES Act funding and if those funds cannot be duplicated. I am going to ask Jonathan Clayton to help me answer this question. If it's not CARES Act funding, I believe you don't have to take those funds away from this application. On this application, you do just have to state if you've received any CARES Act funding.
That's correct. So the CARES Act funding includes like the PPP, the EIDL program. If you received a different subsidy or different assistance, and I believe, Joanne, that would include something like beef.
Yeah, the National Beef Grant, if you had received that, that would not go towards this because that's not CARES Act funding, it was private. Correct.
So any of those programs not including of CARES would not make you ineligible. They would still be.
The total amount that's been allocated to this program from Ford County is $500,000. Jonathan, or might be question for Anna, there is a listing of different business types that gives kind of limits of how much can be granted to those. Is that correct?
So, Commerce set up a list in terms of for its own program. So Commerce had a program, the Small Business Working Capital Grant, that was around a Spark Round 2 funding program where we had designated our own limits. But it is up to Ford County as a county to designate their own limits on a business type, whether they just decide that larger businesses need more or smaller businesses need more or less. That's totally up to Ford County, and they are able to make that determination themselves.
Okay, thank you.
I do see a couple questions here. If you have received PPE, so personal protective equipment, that does not have to be listed on that. You only need to list fiscal numbers on their financial numbers that you have received.
One thing I would add, just quickly, and I apologize, that Spark Round 2 funding that Commerce is distributing this month, that is CARES Act funding. So if someone did receive a grant through the Commerce programs this month, whether it was a PPE procurement dollar amount or the Small Business Working Capital or any of our other grant programs that were from Commerce, those are considered CARES Act.
I see Scott Evans, did you have a question or something you'd like to ask? I see your hand raised. You should be able to unmute yourself if you'd like to. All right, I see there is another question on here. If there's any startup funds available for new businesses creating jobs. This fund specifically is for businesses that were already a business, an established business when the pandemic started. So this would not be for a business that is opening in the next couple months or a future business. Joanne or Jonathan,
if you're looking for startup funds, we do have some programs through the Development Corporation that we can help you to facilitate. So please reach out to us for any type of startup funds that you may be looking for to seek for a new business or business expansion that is not related to COVID.
Yes. Any other questions? Please post them in the chat feature or request to be unmuted, and we certainly can unmute you. Like I said, the recording of this webinar, we will send it out through the chamber and all avenues on Monday. So watch for that. And then also all this information will be available on the chamber website come Monday as well. And then the application will be live October 1st. There is not additional information required for nonprofits. I saw that asked in the chat. So if you are a nonprofit organization, you can fill out the same form. You can fill it out with the same information as if you were a for-profit business. All right, I'll leave it for a couple more questions, see if we have any more questions on here. Okay, so there is a question on the Spark PPE procurement grant. I think we're meaning the Spark PPP grant or the CARES Act PPP funds there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you did receive the PPP funding, then that does need to be listed on the application that you received that. Any money that you received through CARES Act, so that PPP would be on there.
That's correct. So the Spark PPE procurement grant was a Commerce Round 2 grant. So that is CARES funding. So if you received money through that program, then that would be yes. If you received PPE through the county or another provider, then that would not be.
Just to clarify that as well, the personal protective equipment, the Dodge City Ford County Development Corporation was helping the Ford County Emergency Management and the Patterson Family Foundation to supply businesses with personal protective equipment like face mask and stuff. We actually still have a little bit of that available, but that would not have to be taken off of anything on this loan because it was a product, not a financial incentive.
I do see a question on here if all round 2 Spark funds have been notified if they received. I'm going to defer that question to Jonathan with the Department of Commerce.
No, not everyone has been notified yet. We had 10 programs, and the Small Business Working Capital Program, I believe we are sending out our final notification. I believe that the PPE procurement grant notifications have started to go out. The food sourcing grants have not been awarded yet. PPE manufacturing grants have not been awarded yet. So we are still in the process of that. So depending on the type of grant program that you applied for, most of them are still being notified as of today.
All right, I'll give it just a couple more minutes for a few more questions here, and then we will wrap up this call. All right, everyone, I'm going to share my contact information in the chat feature for you to reach out to the Chamber, and I think the Development Corporation will share their information there as well. And like I said, this application will be open October 1st through October 15th. More information will get sent out on Monday, the recording of this webinar, and also where you can find that information on our website and the Development Corporation's website. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me at the Chamber and Joanne at the Development Corporation. Will make sure we get all those questions answered. Please share this information with any business within Ford County. We want to make sure that everyone gets the information that they need. And Jonathan Clayton also did just share his information as well in the chat feature, so you can see that too. All right, everybody, I want to thank you all so much for joining today, and hopefully this brings clarity to the application process and can help you fill that out and fulfills a need for your business or your organization. So like I said, please feel free to share this information, and we'll let you have some of your Friday back. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Anna.
Bye, guys.